I'm reading a line from the back cover of Steve's book, Losing Control. It says, The Dangers of Killer Robots. I think we can understand, we've seen the Terminator, we can understand killer robots. Are such things around right now?
Yes.
Yes. He didn't take long to answer that.
Well, autonomous killing machines, yeah. That's the whole future battlefield, you know. They're talking about the militaries of the world, and even now, as we are talking, the European Union is going to put swarm bots on the borders to keep track of everything and everyone. Gary, they've even proposed, and I believe implemented, smart dust. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Smart dust.
I do remember that.
So imagine we've all been dusted. And I said, you don't want to end up in the dustpan of history, okay? And I'm not trying to just make jokes, but here's the deal. They claim, ladies and gentlemen, with smart dust, it's an identifiable, very small particle that can be sprayed on everything and everyone, so they can have a tally of every great blade of grass, everything. And what is problematic to me, Gary, is we're not talking about partial control. We're not talking about, maybe they're just getting too invasive. We're talking about the total decimation of the human being created in God's image, sex robots. Let me deal with that delicately, okay?
That's good.
Yeah, that's good. There happens to be a verse in Isaiah that says, in those days, 7 women will take hold of one man, saying, take our reproach away from us. We'll buy our own food, we'll buy our own clothing. Let us be called by your name. Well, you know this in the Old Testament. For a woman to be without a husband and without a child, that was kind of taboo. That wasn't a good thing. So the point is that now you've got sex robots taking the place of females, and good examples, Japan. Japan's population ability to reproduce is so low that they're going to cease to exist. And so with the introduction of sex robots comes the, if you will, again, a taking away from mankind that which God gave to procreate the human race, to provide an artificial construct. And I'll tell you this, I went so far as to talk in the book, what happens if those sex bots are programmed with DNA and they turn into killer bots or slaughter bots? Those are my words, slaughter bots.
Yeah.
And basically what, and then I said this, the day will come when a man using the public facilities, restroom, or a woman, they'll have your DNA, they'll have DNA samplers. I promise you within a week of that, somebody proposed it was on the London Daily Mail, toilets that will instantly tell you, if you're at risk for heart attack, stroke, whatever, based on, the chemical composition of body fluids. Now, how can I make statements like that? Well, look, the only way I can, and I want everyone to know, I don't have any secret keys or kingdom, but one thing I learned early in my life, if Jesus would die for me and forgive somebody like me, then there's nobody beyond the grace of God. And people have been won to the Lord by that statement, simply because, they go, man, you were pretty bad. No, I said, I was horrid. But somebody prayed for me. And I believe that the warning, and here's the basis of this. Jesus, if people are mad at this statement, take it up with him, and you shouldn't be mad. He said if he didn't shorten the days for the elect's sake, there would be no flesh left alive. That's a pretty compelling statement. Yet for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. How many people do you talk to says time's flying?
Oh,
everybody.
Everybody. Yeah.
I look in the mirror and I go, man, time sure flew that way, didn't it? The scriptures would behold ourselves, as in a mirror, and I'm going, yeah, I remember the Steve that was different than this Steve, But we're trying to give people, I guess, the understanding that whether they believe this or not, they consider it scary or not, they don't want to deal with it, it's coming for them. They don't have to go seek it out. It's coming for them.
So where are we going here? What is happening?
Well, what is happening is, I'm sorry to make it, and I'm going to try and be gentle, it's always about killing with robots, okay? It's always, that's the end product. Who's the top investigators, researchers? It's DARPA in the United States, Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, and then it's the equivalent in the Russian. And guess who leads the whole world in this? The Chinese. And so the Chinese are so adept at introducing these robotic concepts. By the way, they're the first ones that just a week ago or so introduced the first battlefield laser that can kill you from a kilometer away, and it's handheld. Wow. Think of that.
That's what we used to call a ray gun.
A ray gun.
In sci-fi.
Which, by the way, the Nazis perfected ray guns. And most people don't know that. See, all this stuff, Gary, you and I have been talking again off camera, but all this stuff is like woven together, and one thing really does lead to another. And when you see the advances that are there, you understand how the words of Jesus are so prominent. If he himself, and I say, Lord, I think, it's a good time to start whacking some of these guys. Are going to whack everybody. I mean that, the devil. But the problem is that when people turn away from God, that power vacuum is filled with evil. And evil, Gary, I've never seen the call, nor have you. You've lived a few years more than me, and
Yes.
that's an affirmative. But you've never seen the persecution of Christians, first of all, worldwide, as you're now seeing, because, I'm a student of the Crusades. I've studied history. You've studied history.
Sure.
What has changed, in your opinion?
What has changed? An inner perception that Christians are a kind of enemy bent on destabilizing the world.
It's the exclusivity of the gospel. It's the statement that people will be their own gods. You see this? You don't need Jesus of Nazareth because you're going to become a god. Just yield to me. I'll give you. Think of how seductive this is. If someone came to you and said, you know what? You've got this health issue, we can download you into a new body. And all the stuff you want to do, let's say your favorite subject is, I'm just making this up, butterflies or rocks, okay? And it kind of sounds like the Congress we have, butterflies and rocks. They're caught between a rock and a hard place. But the point is that, and you'll know everything there is, infinite wisdom. That's pretty seductive. But almost to a man, the transhumanists want to live forever.
And they see Christianity as a limiting factor.
Yes, they do.
And not as a positive factor as we do.
They don't believe, number one, most of them who believe in Lucifer obviously acknowledge God because there's that duality of good and evil. But, basically the kings of the earth, and you can put these as financial kings, you can put it as technology kings, are basically saying, we will not have that man Jesus rule over us. We will be the masters of our own fate, the captains of our own ship.
I want to read you something from Revelation. I know you've read this a dozen times, but you have creatures out on the battlefield in the time of the Battle of Armageddon and the Great Tribulation. And they had breastplates as breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots. Now, a chariot would make a lot of noise. And many horses, and the sound of many horses running to battle. We have non-human, whatever they are, out on the battlefield with iron breastplates. How long does it take to say robot?
Well, I think you've got right there, I think you've got a really good description of a robotic mutant, something that can only be typed in his day, John the Revelator's day, by the closest thing he could describe.
Right.
And so when you're dealing with mutagenesis, the changing of one life form into another, and you're taking in all of the ramifications. And so the idea is this: machines good in their world, man bad. There are those who submit to machines and say, well, you're going too far, Steve or Gary, it's going to be panacea. What technology has not been used to make war and kill people?
What technology has not been used to make war and kill people? You mean right up to now?
Yeah.
That would be robotic or robotic-like creatures. And they don't even have to be made out of tin and nuts and bolts to be called robots. They can be fleshly robots.
They have an artificial skin 200 times the strength of human muscles. They've already got that. And so we're in a realm, Gary, where we understand this much of existence. What happens when those who want to stay in this realm are being attacked by those who are in this realm? I'm trying to make it very simple. These people have to expand You know, again, God said, look, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. He's not saying the enemy is destroyed for lack of knowledge. Solomon's, you know, I mean, that's a pretty powerful statement.
Yeah.
But it's not because they're not given the knowledge, it's because they reject it. This message, this broadcast, this presentation could not have been given even 5 years ago, because the technology had to advance to the point where people say, yeah, I saw that robot, you know, dancing, doing backflips, Boston Robotics, you know, isn't that cute, you know, or little dogs, you know?
Yeah.
And then they even have canobots. A canobot is a robot that is fueled by eating dead organic matter.
Okay.
Okay.
That's enough for me right
Yeah,
there.
yeah, no. You know, it's basically not what are we having for lunch, but what's going to have us for lunch.